Great. Hi, everybody. This is Charles. For those who haven't heard me before, I'm a very visual guy and I like to run with a lot of jokes. So there won't be a lot of text here. If anyone wants specific information, links, just post in the chat, message me directly, and I'll send that over subsequent to this talk. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, if I can get one thing out of everyone here today, is to really, really embed into your mind that we need to take data protection seriously and move away from a pure compliance motion. It's fun to meme on the data privacy lord, Mark Zuckerberg. Obviously, Facebook, aka Meta, have done various things to destroy their reputation in the market, and it's causing them obviously a lot of pain in the company and financially to their stakeholders. But obviously, Meta is a very, very large company. And I want to emphasize that this is not just isolated to Europe or US in terms of geography or the size of company. Just earlier this month, PDPA out in Singapore, basically the privacy governance body, has stated that they've already issued almost $3 million in fines in the city-state alone. And that trend is going to continue upwards. Late last year, they declared that the penalties for a privacy violation is going to move from 4% of annual revenue to 10%. And if you know regulations and legal, it's a typical follow the leader motion, right? Singapore is leading the way in terms of both the amount of fines being issued and also fines to smaller companies. Even a startup, Honest Bee, who does online grocery shopping, got slapped with a fine. So we'll continue to see regulations from your country, your geography, your vertical adopt these new practices in terms of higher fines and bigger slaps. Just to kind of help further emphasize that point, in the Philippines, if you violate the Privacy Act, it means jail time, right? Not just a casual slap on the wrist, taking money from your wallet, but actual jail time. So data protection is absolutely critical when it comes to apps and development. And when we talk about data protection, and when I speak with the customers, there's always a debate around agility and data protection, right? Every company is driven to make money. And in almost every case up to today, agility has won, right? I love my memes. Obviously, agility is taking a punch at data protection, but data protection needs to get up, right? Get up, right? We need to shift this balance so that we can have both data protection and agility. What I mean by agility is the ability for you to continue to develop the apps, add the features, and meet the goals of your sprints while still keeping your data secure. But when it comes to data security, we're really seeing two types of motions that are being implemented. And both of them have their challenges and gaps. I want to be able to share a little bit more about that so you can avoid them. The first one is storage encryption sucks, right? If you see the image, if you put a Bitcoin into a safe, are you really securing it, right? Bitcoin is a digital thing. The safe is a physical thing, right? Storage encryption came from protecting people physically, right? If your laptop gets physically stolen, people can't access your disk. Similarly, if your backups are en route to a offsite and the truck gets robbed, your data is safe. Storage has no idea what data resides and who has rights to access that data, right? So how can storage protection or storage encryption really keep your data safe? And this applies to both traditional storage encryption like S3 or BitLocker on Windows platforms to database encryption itself. It is not providing the level of security that you need. And in many of the large breaches, we can see that attackers just simply turn off the encryption or gain access to a super user that has rights to view all the data, such as your DBA. The second one, and I'm so sorry for laughing at my memes, but is, hey, we've got to comply with GDPR. GDPR says that, hey, keeping your data encrypted is going to help reduce the fines. Hey, devs, go figure it out. And it is never a good idea to roll your own encryption. I like to dabble in cooking, but if you ask me to make sushi that's presentable to a customer, that's beyond just safe to eat, I'm going to end up with something like the left picture, right? A little bit mangled. It takes a sushi chef decades of experience, if you go to a nice establishment in Japan, to even start moving beyond just cooking the rice, right? If you watch J-dramas and the various ones around cooking, you'll have a better understanding of that. But when it comes to rolling your own encryption, even the most well-established companies have been proven to fail, right? Zoom is a great example. They're obviously used everywhere with work from home, but they made a simple error in choosing the wrong encryption mode that was vulnerable, right? And that led to people getting access to education meetings and other pieces. And even a company as big as Microsoft made an error by choosing an algorithm that had a non-random initialization vector, meaning that an attacker could guess that the key, essentially, to decrypting your data and was able to get domain access to your environment. And the examples go on, and it's just not these kind of traditional companies, startups as well, right? Clubhouse valued at $4 billion. They rolled their own encryption, and instead of just choosing the wrong type, they just didn't encrypt certain things. So communications to China were being sent out in clear text, and there's a whole fiasco around that. So never, ever roll your own encryption. So what can you do to keep your data safe without losing agility? I think there are three kind of things that you can focus on. The first piece is elevate encryption from storage, right? As I mentioned, storage is utterly dumb. It doesn't have any understanding of data. A great way to do this is to bring your own key or bring your own encryption. You'll see the quote here from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. They advise their financial institutions to bring your own keys. This, at a minimum, allows, if an attacker were to get access to said storage, they won't be able to decrypt the data easily, as the keys are, quote unquote, physically somewhere else. The second way is to move the encryption upwards towards the application layer, right? By encrypting there, the application has an understanding of what data is being processed, stored, created, and an understanding of who should have access to what data. So you can have much more granular controls. So if certain users' credentials are compromised, it's isolated to that user's data only. And the great thing about moving that away from storage, in cases like BYOK or BYOE, is you naturally become cloud agnostic, right? Whether you use AWS, GCP, or another public cloud, and even stored agnostic, whether you're storing data in a database or another type of data warehouse, you're completely free to choose. And this gives you back agility, right? Not only are we increasing the level of security, but now because it's cloud agnostic, you've gained agility back. The second piece is, pardon the bad word here, but encryption is very difficult, even for experts, right? I have a fairly technical background, but I would never call myself an encryption expert. And if you can see on the little graphic on the right-hand side, that's the OWASP top 10. Cryptographic failures has risen from third place to second place. It's now the second top vulnerability for web application. And that's just a clear sign in terms of the level of complexity that entails, right? So a good way to be able to let you guys focus on developing great software is leverage APIs. When you want to charge a customer a credit card, you go to Stripe. If you want to add chat into your application, you go to Twilio. You guys are so accustomed to leveraging these APIs to be able to deliver outcomes to your end users, right? Encryption should be another one of those things, right? Leave it to the experts and access an encryption API. The third piece is, if you do want to integrate your own encryption, there are proven algorithms and modes. NIST itself provides a set of approved AES working modes that you can reference when enabling encryption yourself, right? Whether that's on Java or other programming languages. At the end of the day, what you really want to do, right, is allow your devs to focus on building great software and not trying to figure out encryption, right? Once again, allowing you to meet those goals in your sprint, giving you back agility. The third piece is future proofing. And because technology is changing at such a rapid pace, so is the needs around data protection. Today, having AES 128 may be good enough for your specific application, but due to increases in computing power, such as in quantum computing, that could be obsolete in the near future, right? Or a regulator can come into, such as like MAS in Singapore, and say, hey, if you're keeping personal data, you need to now rotate your keys every 6 months. And if your application is hit with these changes, right, that is going to take an impact in terms of your upcoming roadmap, right? Instead of adding a sprint to add 3 new features, you now got to add a sprint to change out your encryption algorithm or your encryption policies, right? So keep that in mind as you're looking at encryption capabilities. The ability to rotate keys and use new algorithms will really help you to prevent future work. So once again, yet another way to reduce, to increase your agility. So the key thing is really think about moving beyond just compliance. At the end of the day, if you do get data breach, that is a massive impact to your company, to your reputation. So look at areas around moving your encryption beyond storage, reducing the complexity to you guys, the devs, and overall increasing your data protection without losing agility. Any questions?
That was brilliant, Charles. Thank you so much. Really, really, like I'm a huge advocate for the use of memes in presentations because I always feel like it really helps simplify a lot of things. Like, for example, the way that you explained that people shouldn't do their own encryption with the sushi roll analogy was like top class. I mean, encryption is terrifying at the best of times, so you don't want to lump it on developers who already, some of them are already scared of fixing vulnerabilities, let alone doing something complicated like that. So yeah. I guess my question is, like, do you have any suggestions for like any either free learning resources or open source tools or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Developer, work with encryption or implement encryption.
I think the first place to look is NIST. NIST has a lot of information just around which algorithms have been well tested and validated as some of the best practices around encryption configurations in general. I think one of the last speakers mentioned the OWASP top 10. Not only do they talk about the errors, but more importantly, how to fix them. Those are two great places to start.
Okay, that sounds great. I mean, we've got a session actually coming up later today on deciphering the OWASP top 10 for 2021. So that'll be really cool to look through as well. Would recommend you all to check it out too.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, Charles, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us about how to actually maintain some level of agility with data encryption as well. Data protection, sorry. And looking forward to more memes in the near future.
The analogy of the boxer and the "come on, get up." I was like, okay, that's stuck in my head now. Amazing. Thanks so much, Charles. And hopefully we'll see you on Chat in Hopin as the conference, or ahead of the conference, as the event unfolds.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you.